and welcome to this morning's workshop software training session. In this morning's session, we're just going to go over your general day-to-day use of workshop software. So we're going to have a look at your booking calendar and we're going to book a job in. And then we're going to have a look at your job center and what that is used for. And then we'll have a look at invoicing our customers, and we'll go through an invoice for both an account customer, so a customer that has an account with you and you give them a certain amount of terms to pay the invoice off, and then we'll go through a cash sale, so just a general customer that comes into the workshop, and we're going to be able to process an invoice for them and take payment when we finalize or process the invoice. So we're just going to have a look at how the day-to-day runnings of your workshop how you can use workshop software to maybe speed up that process and also just make things more streamlined. So we're going to start with having a look at our booking diary. So on my task panel on my left-hand side, I have all my different tabs. Now these tabs, obviously, they take you to a different screen in the workshop software database. So if I click on booking calendar, the booking calendar shows. Okay. If I want to have a look at the particular days, we can just have a look at this day. Let's take Monday the 1st for an example. If we have a look at it, we can see that there's 11.1 hours that have been booked in for that day, and that is made up of 3 different jobs. Okay, so different jobs means pretty much different bookings. Okay, so we've got 3 vehicles booked in for that day, and then on Tuesday we've got 6 hours of jobs, and then that's made up of 2 jobs. So if I wanted to look further into those bookings that I can see on those particular days, all I need to do is simply double click on that particular day and it'll open up the breakdown of the 3 bookings. Okay. And then we've got here this really great graph. So this graph actually shows you how close you are getting towards your capacity. So I've set my available work hours, which is my total capacity of hours I can book in for that day, at 28. Okay, if you do want to change it, because yours might be on some default one, which could be 40 hours, simply just go to your settings on your task panel. So on the left-hand side, let's click settings, come down here to company settings, and then we've got here the default work hours per day. So what I can do is I can manually change that. So let's change it to 24 hours. Keeping in mind, if I do change anything in my settings, I need to scroll down and hit the save button. Okay, so once I've changed those default work hours per day and hit save, if I jump back into my booking calendar and I double click on the Monday again, we can see here up the top my available work hours is 24. Okay, if it's different for a particular day, then you can just manually change it whilst you're in the booking diary. Okay, so we can backspace this, and maybe just for this one day, we could have, let's just say we've got Fred, and he's one of our great mechanics, and he's actually absent today. So what we can do is, so that we don't overbook ourselves, we can manually change the available work hours for this particular day. Okay, if you've got a few people on annual leave, you can go into the booking calendar for those days that they are on annual leave in advance, and you can make sure you change the available work hours. What this graph also shows you is the breakdown of, if a job is booked in, who is the mechanic that is being assigned to this particular booking. Okay, so once we've had a look at those available work hours up the top there, obviously our graph here shows the amount of hours that we've got as capacity, and that is because we've selected 24 hours up the top. So if we come across, we've got here, if I hover over the pink, we can see the pink color refers to Bill Turner, who's our mechanic. Okay, so our mechanic, Bill Turner, has 3 hours allocated to him for this particular day. So if I wanted to actually see exactly what job that was, all I need to do is just click on that pink line and we can see this customer's coming in with their Mercedes. So then I can double click on this booking and I can just have a look at what's going to be carried out for this job. Okay. Now I'll just go straight back to the booking calendar and then click on the day again. And if I hover over the blue, we can see it's for Michael Smith. And then we've got the yellow, which is Tony. If there are bookings in the booking calendar that haven't been assigned to people, then that's fine. It'll just show as a darker brown color, and it'll just say down the side where the key is to the particular graph, it'll say unassigned jobs. So let's just jump back to the booking calendar. Now, if I had received a phone call, let's just say it's from Aaron, and Aaron wants to come and book his car in for, let's just say next Wednesday. Okay, so what I need to do is make sure that I've got hours available for that day. So next Wednesday is the 24th. I can see here by looking directly at my booking calendar, there's 5 hours and only one job booked in. Okay, so I know that there's definitely time available on that day because it hasn't reached that 24 hours that I've got as my capacity. So I simply just double click on that day, or I can click this little plus symbol next to the 5. And if you hover over that long enough, you can see that it's telling me that to click that symbol, I can create a booking. So I'm going to do that. Click on that. Now, if the customer is already in your database, all you need to do is search the particular customer there. If they're not, click this plus symbol on the right-hand side and you'll be able to add in your customer. Okay, so you've got two options here, individual or company, and it just changes obviously the first name. And then you've got cash or account. Okay, so cash meaning that when the customer comes in and we process the invoice, they pay for it straight away. Account means that you give them a certain amount of days that they can pay for it. If a customer in your system is a cash customer, so you refer to them as a cash customer, but they may say to you, oh, look, just this one time, can I pay you in 5 different installments over this week? Okay, I'll have the invoice paid this week, but can I just pay you with 5 different installments? You need to make sure that just for that particular week, they're on an account status. Okay, so that means you swipe them across and they're on an account status. Okay, so that does happen a lot, and a lot of people say that they don't deal with account customers, which is fine. You don't have to deal with account customers. It's just a way to manage if your customer is going to make partial payments towards an invoice. Just make sure that they're on an account. As soon as that invoice is paid off, though, you're more than you can come back into their customer master file and you can change them back to cash. Okay. So let's put in some required details. So for the first name, let's type in Aaron, and then tabbing across, and we can put in a surname, which can be Greg. Now we've got a phone number. Pop in their phone number there and mobile number. Email address, if Aaron wants to be sent an email copy. and then we've got an address, suburb, and we've got any other details. Okay, so it looks like it's not liking my mobile number, and then that's good. So if you ever see the big red box around it, it's not going to let you save because it doesn't like the format you've entered the number in as. You can see this little required here and required there. Obviously, required fields. It's not going to let you save unless you have something in those fields. So I'm just going to click save. What that's going to do is it's going to add it to this particular booking. And if I go to my customers on my task panel, I'll be able to search Aaron Gregg. With selecting a vehicle, if we selected an existing customer in the system, it's going to display what vehicles that they have in the system. If they don't have a vehicle, simply just click this plus symbol and we can add the vehicle. So once again, take a look at the required field. So let's pop in the rego, VIN number, make, model, body type. Let's drop that down. Now, your body type is pulled from your company settings. So in your company settings on your task panel, you can add different body type groups. Okay, color, and then we've got speedo and production date. So if we've got them, we can enter that in. So now I've entered in the vehicle. Okay, so in under a minute, I've got a customer in there and a vehicle in there. Okay. So I can continue on with this particular booking. Reference number, the system will automatically generate one. Customer order number, so that's if you are dealing with maybe a larger company or a customer that gives you an order number for the booking, you can pop that in there. Booking date, so that's the date we selected from our booking calendar. We can manually change that if the date changes while I'm on the phone to them. That's fine. And then due by. So due by you can leave blank, that's fine. Description, so what's going to be carried out to Greg's car? Let's say let's do a 20,000 kilometre service. Okay, come down here. Now for the booking to be saved in the booking calendar, it needs to have labour in the booking. Okay, we can't go and make a booking for all these parts and no labour. Okay, so it has to have labour in it. Okay, which is pretty self-explanatory. So what it does is the booking calendar works off how many hours the booking will take, and you can't allocate hours to a part or a part in the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you also a little bit about the Repco Navigator Pro. So I'm just going to quickly run through it just in case it is something that you are looking into. So with this booking, we've got the type of vehicle that we have here. Now I may have to change that type of vehicle just for this example because that's a very new model and the Navigator Pro system may not have all the details about this model. So what I'm going to do is go to this Repco Smart Link and then just hit yes. And it's going to take me through to the Repco Navigator Pro system. Now, you could be familiar with this. It's the Repco Navigator Pro system for Australia and New Zealand. And we can see here it's got the CX3 and it's 2005 model. So let's just see if it's got much details on it. Yeah, so we can see here because we selected such a recent model, there's only a few. Yeah, so there's not enough information for us. So what I'm going to do is just click back into models. Let's go back into Mazda. All models. Cancel that one. Okay, so let's just do a Mazda 3, just a general Mazda 3, 2003 model. So once I've filtered through the maker model, we can see here down the bottom all these parts. So these are parts specific to that particular vehicle or parts that are generic and that they fit that vehicle. Okay, so I'm just going to go to this smart quote because what this smart quote allows you to do is you can put in the service interval. So let's just say I did 20,000 kilometre service, and it calculates how long the labour should be on this particular job, and what you need to replace. Okay, and it also gives you all of these notes here. So these are all job card notes for the mechanic to go tick off. So once I've selected the service interval in Navigator Pro, click that return quote button, and you saw how easy it was. What that does is it returns all of the different items that need to be carried out in this 20,000 kilometre service for the Mazda 3. Okay. It even gives you quantities, okay? It's so specific that it even gives you the quantity. So it says that the labour should be nearly 2 hours, 4.3 litres of the oil, and then you've got brake, and then we've got some fuel filter. So what I can do then from here is on this particular labour line, in the mechanic box, I can click in there and I can actually allocate it to a particular mechanic. So when this car comes in, we can give the job card to Tony because he's been allocated to the job. Okay, or we can just leave it, and if we do leave it, it just goes into unassigned. So we'll come down here and we can go save. So this is the event has been saved. So if I jump back into my booking calendar, have a look at the Wednesday the 24th, and we can see here there's an unassigned job. Come down here, and if we want to click on the unassigned, we know that it's this one. Okay, so there's the job. So that's adding a booking into the booking calendar. Okay, so now if we click in our job center, let's just go to booking calendar, and I'll double click on that particular job. Now let's double click and open it up, and we'll scroll down and we'll hit start job. So yes, we want to start this job. Okay, so Aaron has come into the workshop, dropped his car off, so we can go and open up his booking and we can start the job. Now, once we start the job, we need to make sure that we print the job card so that we can hand the keys to the car and the job card to the mechanic. So I simply use this little icon here that I'm hovering over on the right-hand side of the page, right next to the balance due. So I click on that, and I can come down here to print job card. So I'm going to print that job card. Now, because we use the Repco system, it's automatically pulled across from that system all of those notes. Okay, so it saves you all that time you would have spent typing notes or special requests to check for this particular job. Okay, so that was just that little icon next to the balance due and printing the job card. Okay, so the job card's been printed. It's been handed to the mechanic. Mechanic started work on it. Okay, so we'll just hit the save button. So everything's working in progress at the moment. Okay, so customer was booked in, vehicle was added. That booking, the customer came in on the Wednesday, we printed the job card. Now the mechanic is working on that particular job. Okay, so 2 hours later, mechanic comes and hands me back the job card. So the job card should say that everything was done correctly and also how long they spent on the job. So if I have a look at my job center, which is on my task panel, the job center shows all of the current jobs that you've got going on in your workshop. Okay, so all these jobs are jobs that are going on in my workshop. So mechanics could be working on them. We could be awaiting some parts for them, but they haven't yet been finalized. So we can see Aaron Gregg, he's my top one. So when I receive that job card back, I can come into the system come into the system and double click on Aaron. Now I've had a question about the estimated hours. So what we do is we estimate the hours in the booking so that it books out hours to that particular day, and those hours go against our total hours for the capacity. So if we come back into the booking calendar, and I'll just come in and show you the day, I'll double click on the day. Now it is closed, but I'll double click on it anyway. Now what I've done here is in this little quantity button, the quantity box for the labor line. So it has to be the labor line. Because I used Repco, it defaulted to 1.8 hours. Okay, so what that meant is in my booking calendar, from the 24 hours I have allocated for that day, it took away nearly 2 hours and allocated it to this job. And that was just an estimation. Okay, and that was only purely an estimation for the booking calendar days or hours. Now, I've also had another question about when I added the customer. So when I added Greg into the system, does Greg's details automatically go across to 0 when I add them in? And the answer is no. So Greg's details will come across into the system into 0 only once you've processed an invoice for them. Okay. So let's just jump back into my job center and double click on Aaron's job. Okay. So the invoice, customer invoice, so we can see here that it's showing the estimated hours. So when I get that job card back and I see that, let's just say Tony worked on this job and it actually took him 3 hours, I need to change that so we charge out the customer the 3 hours. So all I do is double click in that box and put in 3 hours. So that's updated the total hourly rate. Okay. So what I also need to do is click on this little enter mechanic times button. And what that does is that takes you through to the mechanic entry screen. So I hit my little search button and I can search the mechanic, and they clocked on, let's say they clocked on at 7 and they finished at 10. And then we hit save. So what that's done is it's saved Tony Richards to the particular job, and it's got 3 hours. So now we just click back onto this invoice, and if we scroll down here we can see in the hours column there's 3 hours. Okay, so this hours column is for your internal reference only. Okay, so the hours column is not going to be shown on an invoice for the customer. They will see the quantity. So if you wanted to make a little bit more of a profit, we can change this to even 3.5. Make sure everything else is correct. We can put in the speedo. So that's one thing that they can always write on the job card. So it really should be, let's say it's 21,000. Scroll down here and we've got some invoice notes. So any notes that you want the customer to see. So maybe the steps that were carried out in the job. So anything that you need the customer to know is there. So if I scroll down here, we've got the process button. So I've got the option, because my customer is a cash, I can take their payment. So let's say Aaron put through his credit card on the FPOS machine, that all went through, and I can come down here and hit process, and that will go into your accounting software. Depending on if you're using Xero or MYOB, it'll go in as a paid invoice. If they are a account customer, so if we go to account, change them, we need to select the payment terms. So let's say we'll give them 7 days to pay. And when we hit the process button and just hit yes, we process that and it doesn't ask us for the payment type. When it's cash, it asks for how they paid. So now that this invoice is processed and they're on an account now, it's got a balance due, so $603.07. If it was a cash sale and the account type was cash, it means that there would be no balance due because you would have taken the payment straight away. Okay, so this invoice is in the system. So if we jump across to our reports and we go to business reports, drop down our customer reports, and we can see customer statements. Let's do as of, see if we can run it just for the Wednesday. See if there's any statements. So here oh no, that's another Aaron. Okay, I might run a report that's easier to see. Customer balances by name. Let's run that one. So Aaron should appear on this particular statement. So Aaron Gregg, customer information, his 20,000 kilometre service, and that's what he owes us. So this is a breakdown of all your customers and what they owe you. So these are all your account customers. So I just had a question also about the Xero integration. So when I process something in Workshop software, it actually goes into my Xero account pretty much instantaneously. So what I'll do is I'll just actually jump into, I'll see if I can log into my Xero. Hopefully the okay. So if I have a look in my Xero account and go to accounts, sales, let's go into awaiting payment. Okay. And there's Aaron Gregg's invoice there. So Aaron Gregg, 19th of July, due date the 26th, and then we've got $603.07. Now we can see here workshop invoice 650. Jump back into here and we'll have a look at that report here. And then we've got invoice number 650. So that was pretty much instantly, it jumps straight into the Xero. Now let's go and let's say Aaron paid. Okay, so let's go up and use this plus symbol here and we'll go to customer payment. Search for Aaron Gregg. Search this little magnifying glass which will show outstanding invoices and select that. Now he's going to pay the full amount and he's paid it by direct deposit. So we're going to change the payment method to how they paid. You can put in a reference number there, the amount, and hit apply. So their balance now should be $0. Instead of save, hit the process button and hit yes. Okay, jump back into Workshop software, Xero, refresh that, and it's no longer in awaiting payments. If we go to paid, we can see there workshop invoice 650, Aaron Gregg, and paid $603.07. Okay, so it's pretty much instantly that it transfers across. So you could have your accountant working from a different location and you working from the workshop and they're talking to each other. So you don't even need to call your accountant or bookkeeper anymore because the system does it all instantly. And once again, this is the report that shows outstanding balances. So I can even come in here, look at that business report again, and we can have a look at customer balances by name, and we should not see Aaron on here anymore because his invoice, there's another Aaron, but there's no Aaron Gregg on there because their invoice has been paid. So I've just had a question about the Xero too. So if you do process a payment in Xero, it's not going to then transfer into Workshop software. Okay, so the sync works from Workshop software to Xero. Now, the only time it works from Xero to Workshop software is if you have Xero. So if you have Xero and you've been using it for years and you've got all your customers and everything in the system in Xero, and you start using Workshop software and do a first time sync, it brings across all of your customers, your suppliers. Okay, so it brings across that information. It doesn't bring across any transactions. So the only sync, once you've done your first sync, is it transfers your data from Workshop software into Xero. Now, with jobs that get paid by FPOS, so if I processed a job by FPOS, it still goes into Workshop software and they go under their individual payments. So I know for a fact when you are doing a bank rec in your Xero, you want them to appear as they appear in your actual physical bank statement, which is FPOS payments are a lump sum figure for that one day. So what you need to do is just in the Workshop software, you'll be able to notice because you see the paid date and you can go and group them all together depending on the paid date. Okay, so that's getting a little bit more into the Xero side of things, which is something that you can more consult with Xero about. So if I jump back into Workshop software, we run that report. We saw that there's no Aaron Greg on there anymore. If I needed a reprint of an invoice, go into the customers. Now filter, we can Aaron, Greg, double click on his account. You can always update, change any information. Just remember, if you do, always hit the save button. He's got a vehicle there. You can always add a new vehicle, and there you've got the customer invoice and the payment, and you can see the status of that invoice is closed. Okay. So that's pretty much your process on how you use Workshop software on a daily basis. So we've done the booking, we start the job, we have a look at it in the job center because our job center shows all the jobs we've got going on. Once we've received the job card back from the mechanic, because we printed it, we received it back with the hours. We put in the hours, made sure there was no other additional parts that needed to be added to that job, and then we hit the process button. So we processed it and they were an account customer, so we put through a payment. If they're a cash customer, you make sure the payment goes through, so by FPOS, or they pay you cash, and then you process the invoice. And you saw how instantly that went through into the Xero system. Okay, so that's the end of the Workshop software training session. What I'm going to do is, if you have any questions, what I'm going to get you to do is you can either give us a call or send your questions through to info@workshopsoftware.com.au. If you do have any technical support issues, please email support@autosoft.com.au. So I've just had another question, which I'll show you before I end the session. So we did an invoice for it was attached to a vehicle. So if you're doing a particular, let's just say it's a parts invoice, and it's only going to be invoicing out parts, all you need to do is you go through the same steps. So if we go up here to the plus symbol, let's go to customer invoice. Now let's use Aaron again. So Aaron here, let's type in his name, and we'll just have to type in Greg here. Now if you see here, select a vehicle optional. Okay, so this invoice is parts invoice. It's got nothing to do with a vehicle or a service. So do not click on the vehicle. Just keep scrolling down. and do an invoice. Okay, so it's an invoice. We don't need a speedo. Description, part sale. Whoops, sale. Come down here to products and let's search. Let's do an oil filter. Oil filter. Okay, $26. Type here. So let's just say it's a cash sale. They're going to pay me cash straight away. So we put in the part and we just hit process. Okay, and choose how they paid. Simple as that. Okay, so you just saw how easy that was. So now we can see here that it's not attached to a vehicle because we didn't select a vehicle. Okay, so it was just as simple as that. The vehicle option is an optional feature. Okay, so if you're not going to do an invoice like a general service, you just don't click on the vehicle. Okay. Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call or send me through an email at info@workshopsoftware. Also, if you do have any questions or you haven't seen the training videos, we click on this little question mark and we've got the YouTube help. Okay, so it should go through everything in the system. Okay, so I hope you're pretty happy with using the system. Once again, let me know if you've got any questions. We've got a team here to support you. Just click us through an email. So thanks everyone for attending and have a great rest of your Friday.